Welcome to the Queer Confidence Podcast, the podcast to help you become your most confident queer self. I'm your host, he, she, they, Coach Alex Ray, and I haven't always been this confident. In fact, I used to be super insecure. And through this show, I want to share with you what's worked for me, my clients, and my guests so that you can become more confident. Hello, my confident queers. Happy Monday. Are you excited for our very last episode of this special June series with my past and current clients? Of course you are. It's been so fun to record this series for you and share these amazing stories. And again, the reason for this is because I really want to make sure that you are able to hear and relate to a story of someone else here, because, you know, you get to hear my beautiful voice all the time, but let's give someone else a turn. So I hope that as you look back on these episodes, that you can find little takeaways that really relate to your life and what you're going through right now. And so today we have our very last of the series. My client, MaShawn Jones, is here. He's going to join us today. And he and I are working together currently right now. And we're only 2 months in. So I thought it would be really fun. I'm so thankful that he agreed to it. I know it was, that's kind of scary. You're 2 months into coaching and hey, can you be on the podcast? But I've loved working with him. And I really think that it would be fun for you all to get a sense of somebody who is really kind of like earlier on in their journey in coaching and their journey to confidence. So with that, welcome, MaShawn. Thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I think let's start with, how the heck did we find each other?
Well, that could be a long story, but I'll make it short because people don't have time for that.
A 45-minute episode on how we found each other.
Yeah. So I was scrolling through Instagram, like everybody else does. I think I was bored, maybe in the bathroom or something. Don't we all do it? And I found you, I think, through a friend, and it was like, oh, Coach Alex. And I was like, well, let me see what this, guy is all about. Scroll through the Instagram, because before you add somebody to their podcast, you kind of have to, check their background and check their references. Right. And so I was going through and looking, I was like, oh, okay, he seems, pretty cool. So I followed you, and then I over probably like a week or so, I saw that you had a podcast, and I was in the mindset of this year, I'm about rediscovering myself and just, doing a pulse check of myself to make sure that I'm okay inside mentally, and also physically. So I went ahead and listened to your podcast and was like, he is on to something like this. He is dropping nuggets of wisdom. It's a good voice to listen to when you're driving or anytime it's a podcast. So, I need to contact you to get and to learn more about this coaching and this confidence, because it definitely spoke to my spirit of where I was or where I am in life.
I love that. So share with us more about, you mentioned that this year you had kind of already set an intention at the beginning of the year that this was going to be a year of transformation for you. What does that mean?
For me, well, going on in my life, and I turned 35 this year, so it was one of those kind of reevaluating. Even though I know it's not a, I'm nowhere near the end of my life. It's just one of those, let me just see what's going on. And I wasn't necessarily as happy with my life as where I was at. I've gone through a lot of major changes. Got out of a major relationship in 2018 that dragged on with the divorce to 2020. I'm going through with some job issues and some housing issues. I'm dealing with a situation. So I just decided that I needed to take a minute to go ahead and um, just check in on myself and see where I really was at and stop trying to, sugarcoat everything and saying that I was fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of an interesting thing, like sugarcoating it and saying we're fine, because that's something that you and I have talked about before too in our sessions, is about how we've both had this tendency to be like put on the smile and be like, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. I don't need anything, because we like to show up and help other people. What do you think has changed with that since we started working together?
I definitely think I am learning to be a lot more vulnerable in
Hmm.
life, and I am actually, I always used to think that selfish was a bad word,
Hmm.
but I'm actually reclaiming that word as well, because when you are always selfless, sometimes it is definitely okay to be selfish to make sure that you're fine.
Hmm.
Because before, when you sugarcoat things, it's you don't want to do something, but because you want to make somebody else happy, or you want to please somebody, you'll do it, and you're like, oh, well, I'm just going to sugarcoat this so that way, oh, I'll do it, even though in your mind you're like, I don't want to go. I don't want to do that. I want to be at home. Like, why am I here? And it just takes a toll on you mentally and physically over time. So that's one of the things that I definitely was like, okay, one of the things that I have changed in my life. If I kind of don't want to do it, I respectfully like, no, hey, like that's not where my mind's at, or that's not where my spirit's at. So I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Wait, so how do you say that? Because I know that that's something when you're first starting out, right? Somebody that has not experienced any of this is like, how the hell do I tell somebody no without feeling awful about it?
So I mean, it's not easy. So the first few times you're definitely going to feel kind of horrible if you're used to pleasing people all the time. But
Mm-hmm.
I think you start to realize and learn that, hey, I need to be happy with my life, or I need to be happy where I'm at. Because if you're making everybody else happy, they will continue to walk over you if you don't say, or you don't go, hey, like I need to focus on myself and I need to make sure I'm happy. Because at the end of the day, they will get over it, or you start to learn that sometimes the things that you say no to isn't a big deal to them anyway. So they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, there's no problem. And you're just like, wow, that was actually much easier than I thought. And then you also realize that if people have issues with it, sometimes it's something with something going on inside of them, and it has actually nothing to do with you at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right. Like, it's always like, as we've talked about, it's our thoughts that create how we feel. So if somebody else is reacting super strongly, it's helpful to just show up and get curious and be like, wait, why did this set you off so much? I'm so sorry that it did, but like, I'm confused. Like, why? Tell me. Let me know.
Right?
And I'm not necessarily going to adjust my behavior. I might still do the same thing. Like, it might depend on the relationship that we have, and I might make a decision here. Yeah, that's so good. Um, so one of the things that we talked about that we wanted to share with everyone here is, did you have any apprehension about us working together because we've had different life experiences, particularly racially?
So, and we talked about this. Growing up in the queer community that I kind of grew up, it was, you definitely were more of, thin, white, that was kind of like the desired, preference, and I always felt like I don't fit that mold,
Mm,
and so it definitely took a toll on me. But I think working with you, it definitely never really crossed my mind. I think that's something that I kind of got out before having our coaching session, and kind of just going into this, because I believe when I came into this session, I think I came and said, hey, I can only be me. I can only be what God or whoever you believe in, whatever, that's how they made me. So this is how I am, and this is how
mm,
I'm supposed to be. I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna rock it. And let's go.
yes. Yeah. What are some of those things? I would love to hear if you don't mind sharing, like what are some of those things that you had to work through as a gay man to overcome?
So I mean, there's definitely the whole like kind of body image as a gay man that overcome. It's you kind of scroll through before social media. You have all the fitness magazines, and you have all the queerest folks, and you see the ones that they say are always hot are always toned, they're thin, and or growing up hanging with my friends, I always had friends that were like a size 28-inch waist.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not my body type, right? And it just took me a while to realize that, like, hey, just because you see that on TV or you see that on social media or you see that somewhere as much as that's desirable, that's not actually the case, right? There's different things for different people out there, and that you just have to walk in your truth, and you have to walk with what you have, and somebody will like you, love you for who you are, and it's not always about normally it's not about what you see on the outside anyway. It's what you see on the inside and what that person's actually about.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think it is that like actually allows us to be proud of our body?
I mean, I think to be proud of your body, you just have to be proud of yourself, and you're doing the best that you can do. It's one of the you have to block out all the noise of everybody else. If you're doing what you can do, and and you're doing what makes you happy, and you're healthy, then you're good to go. It doesn't matter if someone says, "Oh, well, you need to," and I've been in relationships where people are like, "Oh, well, if you stop doing that, you'll be in much better shape," and it's like, well, it's my body. I'm doing what I want, and I'm happy, and I'm healthy. So that shouldn't really concern you for me to be an ideal body for what you want. It should be for
Mm,
what I want and what's going to make me happy.
yeah. Yeah. Um, I actually, I think this kind of relates. So I'm gonna bring it up. But I got a message the other day from someone that was asking me, uh, hey, excuse me. They were asking me like, hey, what do you think about body and body image and beauty? And when somebody says that like they don't care about the body, they just see like they're not attracted to a body, they're just attracted to what's inside. What are your thoughts about that? And I can see you rolling your eyes, so I want to hear your thoughts first because I have some strong thoughts, and I think that this is gonna be a great thing to share right now.
Well, you know, we're all human.
Hmm.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And
Yes.
we would be completely lying to ourselves if we say that you are not, that part of why you're attracted to somebody is physically. Because somebody can be completely nice, they can be the loveliest person in the world, and you want to be, their friend, and you could be their best friend.
Hmm.
But if you don't have that physical spark for that person, it just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, and when you're going out, or you're you see somebody out, or you see somebody you're interested in, you necessarily don't know their personality before you talk to them. You just see them and you go, "Ooh, that person's cute. Oh, that person's beautiful.
Hmm.
That person's hot." And then you go to engage. So if somebody says, "I don't see the body," I would like to personally know or learn, how do you get to know their personality before you see their body?
True. Unless you're on that Netflix show where they like date behind a wall. Have you seen that?
Oh, it's the circle show or something.
Yeah.
I have seen that, and I was just like, and they have people that are catfish. Yeah, I definitely see it. I've definitely seen
Yeah. No, thank you. Like,
that.
oh my, so I'm in 100% agreement. Um, if I could add anything, it would just be that like there are two different types of like body image things at play here that we have to remember. There's the socialized cultural definition of beauty, right? Which, if you travel around the world, varies by country. So
Mhm.
there's not an absolute of what like the human body should look like in order to be pleasing. Um, there's just like businesses that are capitalizing on selling a certain body type in order to make
Right.
money off of it. And it depends on what country you go to. They have a different beauty standard in everywhere, and even other parts, like different regions of a country. So that's the first one. So remember that. And we in the gay community do have, like, we are being sold shit all the time about like beauty standards. Just pay attention and realize that that's where part of it's coming from. And the other part is like you said, we can't ignore that. Unless you're actually blind, you see the other person's body, and animals like butterflies, right? Like and birds like use color and stuff to attract a mate. Like this is something that's like deep primate instinct that we still have, that we are attracted to looks and personality. It doesn't have to negate each other, and we don't have to demonize it.
Right. I mean, we just have to be honest with it.
Yeah. So I think with that, like, then the most helpful thing anyone can take away from that then is like, what's worked for you as far as you loving the body that you have.
For me personally, the love in the body I have is just making sure that I am the healthiest person that I am, and that I have, and we talked about this in our sessions, I have my own personal idea of where I want to be. And, I think before I'd be too afraid to say, oh, well, I want this kind of body, I'm just going to be healthy. But I think part
Mm,
of it is saying, hey, like, part of the reason why I'm doing this workout or why I have this crazy regimented diet right now is because I want to look good for this aesthetic, and owning that's where I want to be, and that's where I'm at. And so there's no like, let me just be honest with you of where I'm at with my body, and why I'm doing this and where I'm getting to, and not trying to be nice and say, oh, I'm just trying to be healthy. Like, no, I am being healthy, but I also am trying to get to this aesthetic that I personally want to get to, and that I can. So I'm going to do it.
yeah. I love that. And I think, I've had a similar journey too with my body where I thought if I changed what my body looked like, then I would like it more. And I changed it a whole bunch and still didn't like it. And that's one of the things that I love that we get to do in queer confidence coaching, is that we're working on you actually loving yourself and where you are, and not allowing the way that your body looks to be a determining factor of how much you love yourself.
Right.
Yeah. Um, so tell us a little bit. I want to go back to that burden thing. I think we touched on it earlier, but I think that's something really significant that we should share with people. What helped you kind of get over that idea of being a burden on even like me, who you're paying to work with and help you, right?
So I started that journey when I probably about a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
when I started going to therapy, going through a lot. And I sat in my first therapy session. I remember I sat down, and, she was kind of like, tell me about yourself. How are you? And I was like, how are you doing? Right. Like, I'm paying to go to a therapist, and I'm asking, how are you doing? Because I didn't want to be burdened of my problems to the therapist. And she's like,
Right.
yeah, that's something that you need to work on. like this is for you, right? And it took me quite a while to be able to like, okay, let me open up and feel like I'm not being a burden. And that's something that I continue to work on, because even when I meet, new people, or someone who's trying to help me out, I'm like, man, I don't want to do this because I don't want to be a burden, and I don't want it to make it about myself. But
Mm,
I think as we've been working through this, it's like, no, like, if you're being authentic about yourself, and you're just opening up about yourself, you're not really a burden, because people want to hear your story. They want to hear why you do the things that you do, or, this is why you act. And they don't get to know that if you feel like you're going to be a burden, you can't talk to them. So you're like, well, I'm not going to tell you any of that because it's a burden. It's like, no, if you are open and honest, then they can go, okay, well, MaShawn does this because, oh, that happened to him. And then it clicks with why things happen. But if I'm not open and I feel like I'm being a burden, you never get to know. And, you know, this coaching session that we're doing, it's not going to be effective if I feel like I'm a burden to you. So I also had to get over that really quickly, because they'd be like, oh, well, I feel like I'm burdened, so I'm not going to tell them anything. And then you're going to be like, all right, like, this guy is just dense. Like, this is an hour that is a waste. Let me move on to my next client. Let me hurry up and get him off the off the computer. So,
Oh my God. Thoughts that I've never had. No. I love that. And it sounds like what you're, the essence of what you're saying is really being willing to be vulnerable with people, and how that also allows them to decide what kind of relationship they want with you. So like, you really, if you're truly vulnerable and you're being vulnerable, so you are allowing other people to see you, then yeah, if you are a burden, then it's on them to do something about it, right? It's
right.
And it's not like a surprise out of nowhere, because you've told them your story. Here's who I am. I like that take.
Correct. Love me or hate me.
Yeah. Love me or hate me, here's who I am. On Monday or Tuesday this week, you had just an amazing quote that you wrote. Can you share that with us today?
Yeah, I will definitely share it.
Actually, first, before you share it, give us a little background. Like, how did this like come up for you?
So I went to dinner with a friend on Monday, and we were just having some conversations, and I started realizing that I was feeling some type of way, and I forgot necessarily what the conversation was about, but I was feeling some type of way, and I was sitting there and was like, why am I feeling this way? What is going on? And so, thankfully through your sessions and things that we go through in my mind, I put this model in my mind, and I'm like, all right, let me look at my circumstances and my thoughts and my feelings and all that. And boom, this kind of like thought process came to me, and I grabbed my phone and was like, I got to write this down to see, what comes out of it. And that's how kind of the quote came about.
Love it. Okay, let's hear it.
All right. So it goes, if you're comfortable not making the hard decisions, then you have to learn to be comfortable with your inaction. If the inaction is making you miserable or uncomfortable, think about why and then do something about it.
You have to read that for us like one more time, because I know that our listeners are like, wait, hold on. Because there's so much in there that's so good. Let's hear it again.
All right, yeah, I'll give it to you one more time. If you're comfortable not making the hard decisions, then you have to learn to be comfortable with your inaction. If the inaction is making you miserable or uncomfortable, think about why and then do something about it.
Yeah. I love it. Can you give us like, I don't know, an example or a metaphor of like, of what this means?
Yeah. So, just thinking about it, it's, let's, just to make it nice and simple. Let's say there's something that you really want and you really desire.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason you're not going for it is because, let's use a job, for instance. There's you and your coworker, same job, and a new job or a supervisor job comes open. And you're comfortable at you're comfortable not going for the supervised job because you don't want to deal with like your coworkers or something like that. So you don't apply for the job, but your coworker does, and your coworker gets it. And so now you you might, you have to be, and now you're like upset with your coworker, or you're just kind of just like, I should apply for it, but you have to be, and now you feel uncomfortable because your coworker is your supervisor. You kind of have to be comfortable with it because you decided not to make the hard decision to apply for the job, and your coworker did. So you can't be, oh, that should, and you hear all the time sometimes people are like, oh, that should have been my job, or yada, yada, yada. And then you talk to them, did you apply? No. Well, then you have to be comfortable with that decision, with your inaction. So you have to be comfortable with that decision. If that's making you uncomfortable, then you need to think about why your comfort level is making your decision uncomfortable. So you think about it. After you think about it, then you have to take action, or you have to figure out what your next steps are. A new job, different company. Maybe the decision is you learn that you are comfortable with your inaction. And that's just, this is something that's just off my brain. So obviously there's probably a lot better other examples, but it's just something of that nature, right? Like if you don't want to make a hard decision, so you want to say at that comfort level, but then because you didn't make that decision, you're uncomfortable, then you got to do something about it. You got to look at why.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like there is discomfort in life. Choose the discomfort on purpose. Which version do you want?
And that's something that you talk about all the time, right? Is like, be uncomfortable, right? And the thing is like, oh, no, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I want to be comfortable. Mm-hmm. And then as you're sitting there, you're comfortable, and then you see everybody else who, are potentially living in discomfort, getting where they want, then you start getting mad or jealous or whatnot, because you decided to stay comfortable and they decided to, I'm being uncomfortable and let's see where this takes me. And it paid off. So it's, you have to, you have to do something about it.
Yeah. It's kind of like also how we layer emotions, right? We're uncomfortable in something and then we're uncomfortable with being uncomfortable.
Right.
Instead of just being like, okay, wait, I'm uncomfortable and it's not a problem. That's fine.
Yeah.
Part of life, whatever. I'm curious, is there anything like that you think has changed for you? Or is there any thing where you were like uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, or any other emotion?
I mean, I totally think that I am working on being uncomfortable, because it's and it's one of those things where in life you always hear, oh, I want to be comfortable. I want to be comfortable. And I think I am unlearning that phrase, and I'm unlearning that word to be like a good word in my like vocabulary, my dictionary or whatnot. It's one of those things of, sometimes I want to be uncomfortable because I need to grow. I don't need to be in the same spot where I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable and I've been comfortable for the last 10 years and I haven't grown as a person. I need a little bit of discomfort so that in that way, like I am growing, I am learning, I am becoming a new person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it. And it's so fun to like hear you say these things and things like clicking into place, right? Like it's totally different conversations than we had 2 months ago.
Oh, completely.
Amazing. One of the other biggest shifts that I've noticed in you that we've been talking about recently too has been taking ownership.
Yeah. I think it's easy, in my professional life and different variables, like I've taken ownership of different things. But I think in my personal life, there's a lot of times where I have given that to other people. And I have said, hey, I'm not going to own my life. I'm going to put it on you, which is unfair to them and also unfair to me. But I'm going to say, hey, like, you can have this. And then I realized that, like, oh, wait, I'm not like super happy, or there's like issues and I feel like I have no control. And I've started to going through this, identifying that and being like, you know what? I am taking this back. I need this. I am owning my life. I am owning my decisions. And this is my decision, not something that I can put off on anybody else. These are things that I need to make these decisions for my life or myself, instead of being like, oh well, whatever you want, I'll go with it, and it has major um, results on your life, right? Like, I mean, I just mentioned earlier, going through a marriage and divorce, and part of it is some of the decisions of where I'm at now. It's because I gave somebody that onus, where it's like, oh well, yeah, you can do this, you can have this, and it affected my life, and now I'm just like, man, if I would have kept that to myself, or I would have kept that onus for me, I wouldn't be in the situation that I'm in right now. So it definitely has been something that I thought about, and something that I didn't really notice until we started going through our coaching, and having to sit down with myself. I'm like, oh, okay, that's where it is. That's what's going on. So it definitely opened my eyes to me and some bigger issues in general.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I think it tends to go hand in hand with people pleasing, because we're like, let me take care of everyone else's emotions and not my own. And my own is up to everyone else to like do and say the right things, and for my life to go this certain perfect way.
Right. It's kind of just like, did I say that, or should I say that? Should I not? Or is that person going to be happy? Yeah, it's just so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you remember the like one liner that you said about taking ownership?
Um,
I have
I
it written down if you don't remember.
Yeah, go ahead and take, because I probably will butcher it, or I will add something else to it.
It's your own damn quote. You can't do that.
But they haven't heard it yet, so they don't
You get to
know.
say
So
whatever you want.
yeah, exactly. That's
Now,
not what he said.
how funny would it be if like you quoted it and I was like, no, that wasn't it.
I'm taking ownership. That's what I said.
Right. I love it. So, so what you said was, for some reason, I gave you the onus, and I'm taking it back. And I just loved that. I think it lands so well to like look at the other people and be like, look, I get it. I take responsibility. I've been giving you the onus, but excuse me, I'll take that right back, please.
Right. It's like, yep, I understand my worth now. Thank you very much. You were holding it for a while. I am repossessing it. Thank you.
Taking it back out of it. It's like renting storage space. Like, oh, thank you for holding this and taking it back. This comes back to my house.
Back inside me.
Oh, I love that. So good. What if we give everyone a little preview of, you're about to kind of go on your own entrepreneurial venture that I'm super excited about. So what do you want to share with our listeners about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, let's start how I got there.
Perfect.
With COVID, everybody's working remotely or whatnot. Not necessarily too happy with my job at the time, but I'm comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not much to kind of like push me along to do different things. And come, in December, they said, hey, the company's we're moving this position to, a different state. And, either you can stay with us, we would love to have you, or, you no longer have a job. And with everything on my life, I was like, well, I guess I no longer have a job. And so, thankfully, I also do, the military reserve. So I was active duty, now military. So I had that in the background. So that's fine. Not really worried about money, but, we then had a conversation about, career path, and how do we get to, what do you want to do in life once you finish your time that you're doing, with the military, what do you want to do afterwards? And I was like, well, I really don't know. Like I have these different interests, and we had a conversation about how I had this idea, how I wanted to do image consulting. And when I explained the idea to you, you were like, that's it. Like you literally light up when you have this conversation about what you want to do, and this
Yeah.
like business and the various different parts in there. So let's skip the rest of it, go straight there. And I'm like, okay, let's just do this, right? Like I have the time to do it right now. This is actually the best time to kind of launch it. And so, we are in the process of working on this image consulting that is not only dealing with the outside of what you look like, which deals with like styling and personal shopping, but also with the inside. And it's funny that I was coming to you for confidence coaching, and in my idea, part of it was making sure the person has confidence in them, and make sure that they feel comfortable with themselves and that they feel good on the inside, because it's the inside that counts as well as the outside, because the outside can look put together, but if you're not confident, you're going to be able to tell a mile away.
Yeah.
So that's in the works right now, but it was just very interesting that coming to you to work on myself, it's helping me to start actually realizing that, hey, this is not just a dream or like something that I would love to do. It's something that's attainable, and that hey, we're going to have to, you're going to have to get uncomfortable, but let's go.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm so glad that you pointed that out, that confidence is part of that and what you want to do, and that you're like, oh, it's funny that that you're coming to me for help with that, because the things that we're like best at helping people with are usually the things that we have struggled with the most. And then we go on the journey, and then we like really know that path so well that that's why you're going to be so good at this, because it lights you up when you talk about it, one, and two, because you're so familiar with that journey. You're going to know it like the back of your hand.
Right.
Yeah. And also, I want to tease you for a moment. You're like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm not really sure. Oh my God, that's bullshit, right? And the reason I say that, like, for you, because I love you, and I also want our listeners to hear that too, that when you say BS, like, I don't know what I want to do, like, stop, you do. You're just scared to say it. We, like, do know what we want to do. We feel it in our bones. Usually it's something that we've wanted to do since we were very young, but it feels so impossible. Or it also feels like, yeah, but that's like the dream, and if I fuck it up, then what will I have? It's so much more comfortable to keep it safe as like just this idea than actually go all in on it and risk it not working out.
Right. And I mean, I think the comfortable level is like, also you hear things, or you have other people say like, oh, well, you can't do that, or one of the things, oh, well, you should do this, right? So you feel like in other areas of your life of like, if I have this job, then I have my parents on my back, or I have my partner on my back, so I'm comfortable in that area because they're not there. Or you might feel like, hey, I don't have the support to do this because nobody supports me. But at the end of the day, you just need yourself to be confident in yourself that you can do it, and just go for it.
Yeah. Literally, you just described what right step 3 of confidence is, like having your own back right there.
Right, but like we had a conversation about me. I listened to the podcast and you were going through your 3 steps, and I was like, okay, well, the first step could take like 3 weeks. The second one, I think, could take a week, and it's like, oh no, I can't use the cliff notes. I need to come to the source and get some real good lessons on how to work this out, and get that coach, because it's like when you go to personal training, you go to the gym. You know how to lift weights, but if you get a coach will be like, look at your form and say, hey, let me give you this minor tweak, and you don't have to necessarily lift as much weight, but you're going to get a much better result because you are perfecting the form. And
Mm.
coming to you is the exact same way. It's like, these are all the things that you have. Like, you have the tools in your toolbox. You just need that coach to be like, let me tweak this for you a little bit, so that way you're good to go. Because I was big into doing a lot of the self-help books and reading, but sometimes you just need to come to somebody to be like, all right, like, you're doing the reading, but like, you get a machine, you try to do it, but let me really show you how you need to do this machine and make sure that you're getting the best, so that way you can go on your own and you can, prosper by yourself once you have the right forms and technique.
Yes, 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 yes. Exactly. And you know, I had gone on my own entrepreneurial journey before I knew how to have my own back. And I think that's what made it so tough for me. Was I was like you described, when you're doing something else that maybe parents or friends support, it's really nice and easy because you can have great conversation with those people. You can share how it's going and they get it and they're here to like back you up. If you don't know how to have your own back and you jump into entrepreneurship, you try talking with those same people and they're like, I told you were crazy. It was a bad idea. And then you're like, no, please. I'm already telling myself that I don't need more of that from my friends or family.
Right.
And so being able to have your own back in that way is essential. Also, not being afraid to go and find a tribe of like-minded people so that you can share with each other, hey, what's worked for you? What's worked for you? And this thing is really frustrating right now. No worries. That's fine. That was part of my journey too. Don't worry about it. It's supposed to be really uncomfortable right now. Totally fine.
Right. And even sometimes when you think you're uncomfortable, and then you don't want to tell anybody, or you don't have the conversation, you want to do it, but then you talk to your friends, and your friends are like, "You'll be great at that," and you're like, "Oh wait, you already have a tribe that already supports you to do what you're going to do." I've ran into that, talking to some of my friends about it, and they're just like, "Oh no, you'll be great at that." It's like, oh, you. So sometimes we put that, we're uncomfortable, but we put it on ourselves because we think what somebody's gonna, say, and then when you actually have that conversation, they're like, "Oh no, do it, go for it, I got your back." And
Yeah.
that, even though we need our own back, it always feels good to have somebody there to help kind of pick you up when you're stumbling, to be like, "All right, let me help you up to make sure that you're okay."
Yeah. So, like, what you're saying is it really doesn't matter one way or another whether your friends show up for you or not. It's helpful, but you being able to show up for yourself is what makes the difference.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I I love that. That's so good. So, what what would you say is, let me rephrase the question. how, how would you describe your confidence before starting, and how about now?
So before starting, it was a little sketchy. I'm not going to lie. It was, some days I was in the mirror, and I didn't know the person I was looking at,
Mm,
to be honest. Like, there are some days you look in the mirror and you're like, who's that? And now when I look in the mirror, I know exactly who I'm looking at. I'm not, I am not where I want to be
hmm
all the way, but there's always room for improvement. There's always ways to, have my back going through the different steps. But I can look in the mirror every day and I can say, hey, that's MaShawn right there. That's who that is.
mm,
And so that is just it's been a huge change. It kind of just, you know, there's just a little added, you know, way in that I walk a little bit more with the chest out. You know what I mean? Like, not shying away from the world, but kind of, saying, hey, here I am. I am present. I
mm.
am a force to be reckoned with, and whatever I'm doing, not like a, sorry, let me get out your way, let you do what you need to do. Like, no, it's here I am.
Ah, so good. Can you get like a poster of that? Here I am.
We're gonna do it.
Do it. All right. Last question for you, my friend. What are you celebrating about yourself?
I am celebrating the showing up, That's just where I am in life right now. I am celebrating any and all small victories that I have every day, and knowing that I don't have to be perfect, but that
Mm,
I am doing it. I am getting to where I need to be, to love my inner child, to just be a improved human that I want to be. So, and just being
yeah.
authentic, that which is super huge for me. It's just being authentic with everybody that I meet, and not trying to please everybody, and being
Mm,
a little phony.
yeah. Oh yeah. I'm celebrating that about you too. I love one of the things that I do frequently when we for listeners right now, um is I will ask at the beginning of our sessions, usually after a month or two in, like, what are you celebrating about yourself? Because I like to take a moment and go, like, what went well this week? Because our brains always want to find the problems. Let's celebrate some, right? And I really hear consistently from you that you keep stepping out more authentically every single day. And that is so exciting. That's the whole freaking reason for all of this.
Right.
So I love to hear it. All right. Any last word of encouragement that you want to offer our listeners today?
I mean, I think, you know, any words of encouragement is, just be you, um, and don't be afraid to look for help when you need it. I don't think I would have been to this part if I listened to people, and didn't actually reach out to you to be like, hey, like I need something, right? There's so many times where it's like, oh, you should just do this on your own. But it is okay to reach out, and get help, and say, hey, this is an area that I'm lacking. Can you help me? Or to just invest in yourself. We can invest in a lot of other things, a lot of people, but sometimes we don't take the time to just sit down and invest in ourselves and say, what do I really need to be authentic and to be happy? So this isn't Alex and telling me to plug this, but I will plug this for him. Like, if you are definitely having having thoughts about whether or not you're going to reach out to, to Coach Alex, I would say reach out, because even if you don't do it, there's going to be a lot of knowledge, and a lot of things that you will learn in your first conversation with them, where I think it will help you in the future, no matter what you decide to do.
Fantastic. I'll send you a paycheck. No. You didn't expect it, but I'll send it anyway. No. Yes. Thank you so much, MaShawn, for being on the show today. I love this conversation, and this is going to help so many people. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. My first podcast. I'm definitely nervous, but thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, everyone. You have an amazing end to Pride Month. You have a few more days left. Celebrate you, celebrate who you are, and enjoy it. I'll see you on the next episode, everyone. Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend so they too can become more confident. You can also help more people find the show by leaving a 5-star review wherever you listen. And if you want to become a more confident queer with support from yours truly, head to CoachAlexRay.com or use the link down in the show notes. I'm looking forward to working with you.